Hello, hello, and welcome back to Minotaur Hotel. This is a curious game. I'll give it that. That was a very mysterious prologue, but now we're in chapter 2, so let's see how things go. A few days later, the horizon sprawls across the stained windshield. The radio's tune has disintegrated into static. The AC can't keep up with the sun's heat on the car's roof. The desert stretches on the entire horizon ahead, a wasteland of flat, yellowed plains. To the right, about 100 meters from the road, the dusty soil gives way to a sharp cliff. A valley peaks out beneath it, stretching to the blue horizon. You check the deed again. You couldn't read it at first, but you were too tired. But now the once gibberish characters make some sense into your brain. It's like reading a language that had branched off of your native tongue a few centuries prior. It is just alien enough to be unrecognizable at first. However, when you squint hard enough, you can read the characters reminding you of your alphabet. Excuse me. And then the words meaning pops up in your mind. It's unsettling in a way. It feels as if your brain is shifting from inside out. The more you look into it. But try as you might, it's hard to even acknowledge this discomfort. It melts away at the blink of an eye. You squint at the deed. Just an hour or so ago, you had checked it and realized how close you are to the address. And so you got into your car and set out, with a newfound curiosity and a nagging anxiety fighting in your chest. Maybe the old man really had given you something of value after all, not a worthless scrap of paper. Could it really be? You got a deed for a hotel from a senile man in a cafe? Sure, not many would complain about getting something for free like that, but at the same time, most would argue it feels wrong. The hotel should be just farther ahead. You turn on the engine and set off again. It pops up on the horizon line just 5 minutes later. A while later, you pull into the gravel parking lot. Oh, that's like a whole ass hotel. What the fuck? It looks more. It's like looking back in time at what must have been one of the greatest hotels of the 30s and 40s. It's built entirely out of marble in an Art Deco style. I appreciate that. It's majestic, grandiose even, and utterly ruined by age and made eerie by its surroundings. Who thought building such an incredible place in a desert would be a good idea? You look at the infinite horizon behind you. There is nothing aside from the hotel. No plants of any kind, nor cacti, brush, or even dead trees. Only a hotel in the middle of a desert, built on top of the cliff's wall. No animals either. The sky is blue, without a cloud or bird of prey in sight. The ground beneath you had no bugs, not even a scorpion or spider. There are no other cars on the road either. You look back to your car's panel. The odometer indicates you've only driven about 4 miles. The car's hood is cool to the touch, as if it had been off for hours. You look to the hotel as you think about all those details. Something catches your eye, however. A porch overlooking the valley beneath the hotel. The valley stretches to the cloudless horizon, framed to the right and left by a cliff, by more cliffs. Looking down to the bottom, you can just make out the outline of a dry riverbed stretching out. You notice there's a cave opening in the cliff wall right below the hotel. Its exit is lined with statues, the details of which you can't make out at this distance. Right outside, there are rocky tiles spreading out into the pathway. You'd wager a guess it made for a labyrinth of sorts when the river still flowed. The maze ends with a single pathway leading to a high mound, which would have easily stood as an island in the middle of the flooded valley. The region's terrain is much like the hotel. It may have been beautiful a long time ago, now it's eaten away by time. Your reflection is broken as a more pressing matter sneaks up on you. The heat. Regardless of the weirdness around you, there's no escaping the sweltering sun. You walk to the entrance, the door's unlocked. It's hard to tell for how long this place has been abandoned. The building itself surely is old, the exterior severely decayed. It wouldn't be surprising if the interior is teeming with wild animals, rotten walls, and falling pieces of ceiling. But instead it's just dusty, humid and stagnant too. The walls are water damaged, and there's a lot of mold. However, it's not as bad as one would think. You call out and hope anyone might be there. Maybe some squatters, but just like outside, there's no sign of life at all in the hotel. You walk up to the reception. The counter is as dusty as you'd expect, and there are pens and yellowed paper and pieces of paper strewn about. It seems whoever was here left this place in a hurry, who knows how many years ago. There's a door behind the reception desk, which leads you to a small but dignified office that seems to have been left under a similar state of hurry. There are even portraits on the table showing black and white pictures of a smiling family. On the corner of the room, there's a rusty safe. We're gonna investigate the desk. On the desk is a ledger. Unlike something else in the hotel, its pages are yellowed and wrinkly, but it's still readable. It contains a list of guests, their respective rooms, check-in and check-out dates, signatures, and so on. The last guest to arrive was back in 1944. To be more precise, someone attempted to check in on that date, but was interrupted in the process. All of the following pages in the ledger are blank. You find a second leather-bound ledger as well, one that says staff written on it in the flaking gold print. It lists all the employees in the hotel during 1944, their country of origin, role, and a few have a star scribbled behind their names. This place employed quite a number of people. More than 50, in fact. There doesn't seem to be anything else you can deduce from the ledger. It's one of the old-timey safes you'd seen in movies from in the 90s, with the spinning dial and all. You prepare yourself to try and crack the password, except it's already unlocked, albeit rusty. There's only a stash of booklets inside, 4 passports, all from different countries. Unsurprisingly, they're all expired. There doesn't seem to be anything special about them. But it's strange that someone would keep passports in an office like this. You take a moment to go over the ledgers and passports together. A cursory glance reveals a pattern. The passports are from the 4 employees with stars behind their names. You take them with you and leave the ledger on the table. You obtain the passports. You return to the reception to continue looking around. Up ahead is the tall spiral staircase, going both up and down. There are multiple paths branching out from the lobby. You take one of the hallways leading down the bedrooms and find all the doors unlocked. Much like the lobby, the bedroom's rotting away while consumed by time. Walking into the disturbed, the fine mist of stagnant spores and dust, which was turned into a curtain diamonds by the sun shining through the window. Each bedroom was equipped with at least one king-size bed. The springs were busted more often than not, but the fabric yellowed. Not even such desolation could hide the past glory of the place. You returned back to the hallway, which seemed to stretch forever forward. From outside, the hotel had looked big, but not nearly sprawling enough to have a ground floor with over 100 bedrooms. No matter how many twists and turns you took, the hallway never wrapped back into itself. Backtracking all the way back to the lobby was the only option. The spiral staircase seemed much more inviting than wandering the seemingly endless hallways. Over the staircase, all the way up, there was a skylight draping the sun's warmth over your shoulders. It was a lighthouse, guiding the travelers to this once majestic hotel. The way down was as ominous as the skylight was graceful. The marble hand railing were lined with burnt-out lamps. It was impossible to see much in the darkness down below. The second floor was mostly bedrooms again, but here, the outer hallways were lined with sprawling windows showing a courtyard behind the hotel, close to the cliff's edge. It was a sight to behold. While the hotel was consumed by time, the garden outside had flourished. It was a field brimming with white flowers, swaying in the wretched desert wind. At the center was a statue of a man and a dog. The flowers rose up to the man's knees, and only the top of the dog's head could be seen. The man's hand was outstretched, as if beckoning the flowers to grow taller and for people to approach. The garden seemed a more inviting adventure. You descended back to the marble staircase, brimming with clarity, and it felt like a cloak or a hug was draped over your back. You turned to the hallway leading further towards the hotel's back, but a single turn to the right brought you to a vast room. Right beside its entrance was a bar, and to the left table, couches and reclining chairs. Further left, there was a tall window of stained glass, like the ones in a cathedral. All throughout, and through a glass door beside this window was a garden. The wind blowing through the garden sent out a long, continuous whistle. From this low angle, the statue seemed like a king, tall yet humble, beckoning his dear subjects. The flowers sway back and forth in the singing wind, and the dog's head was barely visible above them. Its ears were perked, and its tongue lolled out from its grinning mouth. Behind the statue, beyond the courtyard, was a railing overlooking the drop into the valley below. As you walk around the statue, you notice out of the corner of your eye that the dog seems to have traveled its head to follow you. You look back. The dog statue hasn't budged, but indeed it was gazing right at you. You parted the flowers and walked up to it, and it's when you noticed the dog had 3 heads, one staring forward and one staring off to other side. All 3 of them exuded warmth. You petted one of the heads and noticed how worn the marble was. People have been petting him for a very long time. Then you made your way to the cliff's edge. Once more, you were greeted by the valley, straight down. Far below, you could see the statue-lined cave exit. You could only wonder how vibrant this land must have been ages ago, when the valley's rivers still flowed. You go back inside, into the vast room. It seems dark but intimate, now that your eyesight is used to the exterior brightness. You can still notice the whistling coming from the outside. You take a seat at the bar. This newfound darkness is soothing, soft as velvet. It's like being in a candlelit lounge. Behind the counter, the bottles of fine spirits are still half filled. They glimmer in exquisite browns, reds, and blues. You close your eyes and imagine how this place was decades ago. The whistling shifts again. It turns into the hum of human life. Footsteps and breathing, chairs being dragged, cutlery and plates clinking, laughter, whispers, people greeting each other from across different tables. People dressed so nicely, a barman in front of you, serving the finest drinks you can imagine. He knows your name and how you like it. You like it. Whether you are tired or brimming with life, he lends you an attentive ear. You open your eyes. You are back to the abandoned hotel, majestic and destroyed. One can understand why the old man wished to pass it on to someone who would care for it. You tap your jacket's breast pocket, making sure the crumpled parchment is still there. Even the yellowed, stained paper exudes warmth now. You stand up, walk out, and as you do, you notice a large purple stain on the floor behind the counter, and the glass shards of what used to be a wine bottle. You proceed further into the hotel. There's a lot to see still. All the way down to the hotel, a set of sliding glass doors beckon you. But from afar, the difference is clear. The wallpaper is ripped, and one of the doors is cracked. You step on something hard, a revolver bullet. You push the door to the side, and are greeted by an even more chaotic sight. It's the hotel's restaurant. The tables are overturned, and the booth chairs and plates lay broken on the floor. There's a darkened stain in the middle of the room, which trails into the kitchen. Okay. It leads you past the pantry and to the massive iron door of a cold room, which is locked from the outside and boarded up. All around the kitchen, man, if I didn't know, I don't like this horror feeling some of these scenes are having. It's weird. I don't even know much about this game. I've seen an image of a peacock, I think. Like a peacock, man. I don't know what's up with that, but, you know. There's even a pan on the stove with what must be fossilized food, and the sink is filled with dirty dishes. On a nearby counter is a revolver covered in a thick dust, and you think back to the bullet in the hallway and the stain of the restaurant floor. The old man wasn't kidding when he said he wasn't a good person. You check your phone. Perhaps you'll need to call the police or a morgue, but there's no signal out here. You breathe in, preparing yourself for a terrible sight. The rusted door fights against your will, but stands no chance. Darkness pours out. The stench strikes first. It's the stagnant smell of blood and rot. It clings to your nose and mouth like a bitter oil. Before your eyes can adjust to the darkness, a second wave of stench hits. It's like a farm, too. The scent of dusty fur, maybe even hay, but cooped up in a hot, humid room for decades. And last but not least, stale shit and piss. The place has it all. The stench of 1,000 different deaths. The light pouring into the room, the cold room, shines on the floor in front of the doorway. Empty cans of soup and glass of jam are strewn about over the trail of old blood. Whatever was locked up in here died pretty quickly. The cold room extends into the absolute darkness. Halfway in and of itself, you proceed, scraping your shoes on the floor as you don't trip over the refuse. The entire floor is covered with discarded glass and cans. Whatever scraps were left in them were long rotted, dried, and crumpled in the dust. Both your footsteps are breathing echo. The overbearing humidity drapes across your back, and you breathe. Your breathing becomes agitated. The stench is stronger. Your sight finally adjusts to the dark at what must be the cold room's far wall. You notice the faintest glimmer. Oh, okay. Whatever it is, it slouched on the floor, motionless, as if it died where it stood after who knows how long locked it. Wait. After who knows how long locked here. I'm okay. A shy blue glimmer, however, flickers where its left eye should be. Your eyesight is used to the dark now. The distant pillar of light bleeding from the doorway is enough to avoid tripping on the discarded glass. You crouch in front of the thing. It's a bull's head. You look at its neck, searching for a zipper or the edge of a mask, but there's none. It's covered in fur, aside from the patches of sickly exposed skin. It has hooves instead of feet. Its horns could easily gore a person. Half of its skull is exposed. The bone still has a smattering of blood dust near the remaining flesh. Its left eye socket is empty, but something shining inside it, a blue ember. The fur is coarse and unkempt, but can't hide how deadly thin the creature was. It died from starvation, not from whatever destroyed its face. That's enough. You stood up and turned back to leave, and as you do, your rustling clothes and echoing footsteps break the curtain of silence. That's when you hear it. Breathing as faint as the moth's flame flapping. You look back to the corpse. The blue flame flickers at you. Its chest expands and contracts. You take a few steps forward, and the sparks follow you like an eye. You set your gaze on the thing, trying to read its torn-off face. Can you understand me? It barely reacts to your voice. Your words sink to it, and crawl into its head, dig their way into its mind, and then twist up until it wakes up. Like a butterfly coming out of its long sleep, the thing's remaining eye shifts back to life. It nods to you. Who are you? I am the hotel keeper and prisoner of the labyrinth. His voice is raspy, and nearly a string of grunts booming through the room in contrast with the disheveled body his remaining eye frowns. And you're the master now, which makes me your servant, bound to your will. I cannot disobey your orders. The thing cradles his head between his arms. His voice comes out muffled. If you wish to know what I am a hybrid monster. About my sorry state, the previous master did this to me. And as your servant, I shall answer the master's questions. He remains with his face hidden for a while. which he does look up. He does look up. He stares at the exit and not to you. He squints his eyes and raises a deafeningly thin forearm over it. He scuttles an inch to the side, so your shadow covers him. Why did the previous master do this to you? The creature recoils, shrieking further into a fetal position. Being a monster is reason enough for damnation, master. He chose to return the labyrinth to its original purpose, I presume. His bony jaw opens and closes, chewing on nothing. Does one need a reason to follow the will of gods? It hardly matters, regardless. I cannot die. His open wounds stand out as he speaks, alongside his madly flickering flame. They are glaring enough. They are glaring enough to be visible from afar, even in the darkness. How can I help with your injuries? He exhales sharply at your words. His face sinks again between his legs. Master need not worry about me. I cannot die, and it stops hurting a long time ago. A skull feels no pain. What truly hurts is to think about our guests. For all this time, I've wondered what happened to them. I hope they found belonging. I hope they found belonging elsewhere. Why were you locked here? This is what the master saw fit. He shot me, then commanded that I stay here, in this room. But as you can see, I am an underling. It only hurt. I cannot be killed. I am undying. I can only presume he expelled all the guests shortly after, and now the hotel must be in a sorry state as I am. He locked the door as well, but his command was enough. I cannot disobey, so I had no way out. I am a prisoner, after all. Who lived here? What type of people used to consider this their home? Just about anyone in need. If fate saw it fit for them to stumble here. Orphans and runaway children, homeless wanderers chased by their past, shell-shocked men seeking respite. Those who have no one else and no place to call home. Before the last master took over, the hotel belonged to a man who fought in the First Great War, Master Jean Marin. He saw fit to bring in those displayed by bloodshed. His voice falters for a moment, and you hear a little cracking. The hotel was gorgeous then. Master Jean survived the First War, but not the Second, so his brother inherited the hotel and saw fit to enact his will against me. You pull the hotel's dean from your breast pocket. So it's this that makes me your new master? Correct. The ownership of the labyrinth was transferred to you. I always knew who the current master is and his name. You are a prisoner, but you are also the hotel's keeper. His eyes narrow, and the ears droop. Yes, I was sentenced by the gods to spend eternity here. I did not fight my killer. And for such meekness I was condemned. The gods made this land, which they call the labyrinth, to house me in my damnation. The master is meant to be my torturer, and to that end is given control over the land. But there is a master who believes in the labyrinth, could turn into a soothing place, and that I could tend to. So, excuse me. So by his will, I became the keeper. And by the god's ancient command, the labyrinth attracted those who are lost and have nowhere to go. They become our treasured guests. He closes his eye for a moment, lost in a dream. What about your life? Before you came here, what was it like? Master Jean told me it became a matter of legends. I was born from a queen who had an inflicted affair with the white bull of a sea god, Poseidon. I was raised in the court of King Minos in Crete. I keep forgetting. He took me as his son, even if I was much worse than a bastard. But eventually, my sister demanded I be sent away. Father Minos, I don't remember this word. Mother spoke not, so they shipped me off to my first labyrinth alone, with just an axe for company. I stayed there for years, until one day, the warrior Theseus came for my head in rebellion against Father's reign. He was prepared to fight me, but I had nothing to live for. So instead, he provided me with mercy. As you can see, the previous owner attempted the very same. But I cannot die, not this time. I only lost some flesh. And the hotel's guests. His eyes flicker madly. Your questions are all answered. Another comes to mind. Oh, what's your name? He hesitated before answering. His burning eye, shifts ever so slightly. My master holds the right to pick my name, even if it is your wish to know. The one I was given at birth was Asteron. Asteron the Minotaur, adopted son of the king Minos of Crete. Asteron looks up to you as he speaks. Perhaps the distant land those words, adopted son of King Minos of Crete, brimmed with pride. But today they drip with the nostalgia and hope of a man who, for the first time in decades, uttered his own name. For a split second, he remains... For a split second, his remaining eye reflects a strand of light from outside. He realizes then how dry, thirsty, and hungry he is. But it doesn't matter. After all, he cannot die. As a servant, his duty takes precedence. The Minotaur adjusts to a kneeling position, the cracking of his kneecaps bouncing off the cold room's floor. The cold room's walls. He bows his head to you. The bond between jailer and prisoner is born from the deed, while that between master and servant is willingly chosen. Will master hear my oath of servitude? You raise your eyebrow at the skeptical Minotaur's gesture. You cannot muster a response in your silence. The Minotaur glances up to you. He starts shaking, barely able to hold his hands together. Then his lips tremble in anticipation. Master, the labyrinth was designed to torture me. The Minotaur's voice cracks. For the first time, you notice a tail thrashing behind him. The oath of servitude is what kept it at bay. Please, master, allow me to recite it and take me into service. You can only nod in response. With your authorization, he is able to proceed after a minute to bring himself together again. By the provisions under the statue of Joseph the Merciful, the prisoner Asteron pledges loyalty and servitude to the labyrinth's master. The prisoner is made keeper of the hotel above the valley and is bequeathed the power to realize the master's will. The master in turn binds the labyrinth, forbidding the malice entries from leaving said valley. The realm was engineered to torture the prisoner, and indeed the mission shall be accomplished. The prisoner will carry the burden of servitude, but shall not suffer the labyrinth's wrath within the hotel's territory. The prisoner, shielded by the master's will, is made as long as his duty is fulfilled under the terms of the statute. Asteron dares not to look up at you. Once he finishes his oath, the silence is broken only by the drop of sweat dripping from his trembling face. This is a lot of information to take in at once. If you want anything from me, you'll have a lot of things to explain a little better. For starters, gods? Are you really telling me gods are real? Yes, pardon me. I failed to consider the times. The gods, they are, or perhaps were quite real. I cannot know for sure the specifics, but they seem to have disappeared. Back in my time, they were quite present among the lives of men, and more often than not, mortals were worse off for it. I don't know how long I've been here, nor what changed since then. But from the stories I've heard, it seemed that most traces of the supernatural have vanished from the world of the living. Does that answer your questions, Master? Not completely. What were the gods like? It was rare for mortals to know their personality, know them personally, but the consequences of infiltrating them, infuriating them, was plain to see. The pantheon was respected, but above all fear. They were not merciful. You can see for yourself. They sentenced me here. This is a lot to take in, if I'm being honest. The Greek gods are real, or at least were, in a kind of life-changing. Is kind of life-changing. Are all gods real too? All others, I don't know. I believe many of them were, yes, but I can't know for sure, as I do not regard those gods for my time. Were there other Minotaurs? No. I was the only one. Never saw or heard of another Minotaur in all of those centuries. There are other supernatural beings. A few have appeared in the hotel here and there. Some were staff members even. But they've grown so very rare from the last few centuries. But no Minotaurs. Why haven't I seen them elsewhere, then? Do they live in the woods, isolated from civilization? Back before I got locked here for, they used the disguises. They passed as regular humans by using a charm. But I wouldn't know if they still would do that today. And this oath you were talking about, what does it mean? It's what protects me, my lord. These are creatures in the valley. They cannot harm me inside the hotel as long as I am under the master's service. The previous oath remained for as long as the hotel remains within the... The previous oath remained for as long as the hotel remained without a master. With your arrival, I am made vulnerable again. Please allow me into your service. Will Master Mr. Josh take Asteron at his service under the terms of the statue? Accept. Very well. Assuming you are speaking the truth, yes, I accept you as my servant. You become, your words bounce off the walls and slither their way out of the cold room. The lights drip from the door behind you. Wait, from the behind door. Wait, the lights dripping from the door behind you falter. Your shadow draped over the Minotaur, flickering as shifting and shifts slightly. The world itself shudders under your words and responds by slithering into a new shape around you. Asteron still looks down, his frame now slouched further forward and no longer shaking. My gratefulness knows no bounds. I shall not disappoint. I may be in a sorry state now, but I will recover. I will be quick to recuperate. If Master allows, I will take my leave. I need only take a trip to the infirmary to patch myself up. He raises his head ever so slightly, glancing at the doorway. Am I still unable to leave this room? I am still unable to leave this room until you command me otherwise. I'll escort him. Undying as he may be, the Minotaur's body is atrophied? He won't go far on his own. You kneel down to his level. Despite the darkness, you can make out his scalpel, and sagging skin. Can you walk on your own? Estrella averts his eyes by looking down on his legs. Master ought not be worried about me. I can make it to the infirmary on my own. I've been through worse. He's not looking at you. There's just a hint of pride in his voice. No, I want to help him. But commanding him sounds weird. Yeah. Very well, you have my permission to leave the room. Without uttering a word, the Minotaur bows to you, then puts his hands on the ground to try and rise up. He struggles. First it snaps his knees from the new position, and then it finds his balance. He succeeds after holding on to one of the shelves. One step at a time, he ambles towards the door, taking breaks to rest against a wall and adjusts his eyesight to the light. I think I'll end this part here. It's running a little long, so I'll see you around, everyone.